In the jungles of Belize, a repulsive gnome punishes those who do not respect the forest.
Belizeans are very scared of him.
Maybe they even think it's devil's work.
If you believe in something strong enough, then you can bring it out.
If we don't have respect, then, he gets mad.
Watch out for the Tata Duende.
Tata is a little mean monster.
Belize, a splendid, small Central American nation located south of Mexico. It's especially popular for its 250 kilometers or 155 miles of beaches overlooking the Caribbean Sea. But Belize, and in particular the Cayo region, has a rich Mayan heritage. More than half of the country is covered by tropical forests protected by the government. But in these lush forests lurks a monster that has fascinated and terrorized Belize for centuries. The Tata Duende. A gnome, at times good or evil. Grissie G and Dismas grew up here.
My grandpa always told stories about Tata Duende visiting the farm. So we grew up with it. Every weekend we'd go visit and we'd hear these stories. So it was very alive in my family.
A few years ago, the couple had an experience that left them perplexed.
We were driving along the cane fields. It was almost sunset. And Dismas and I were in the back seat. And we just started hearing like a little whistle following the car.
We could say like we were going maybe 45 miles an hour, and this whistle seemed to be following the truck. But not following like from behind and just tailing us.
Just going with us. It sounds like it's on the wind, is a way to explain it.
And it wasn't like a bird whistle, it's just a strange little hollow whistle. But the thing that was strange about it is that Grissie G's dad and one of his friends were in the front seat of the car, and they did not hear the whistle. And the both of them are like looking at us as if we were imagining it.
We got chills and we were like, whoa.
I like to say I'm an open-minded skeptic, so I'll question it to try to find logical explanations. But if we're both imagining it at the same time,
and hearing it and feeling something weird,
throws you in a thing where you start to question your beliefs, and reality is like, is this possible Tata Duende whistle? Or this does give us like a push more that maybe there is something more to it than just stories.
Right.
The million tourists who visit Belize each year have no idea that the country's jungle hides such mysteries. And Belize has one of the most diverse ecosystems in Central America, argues René Villanueva, a journalist and owner of one of the most popular radio and television stations in the country.
Of course I love Belize. And Belize is the most beautiful country in the world. The beauty about Belize is that it's 8,867 square miles. If you travel to any country in the world, you will not find the diversity you find in any 8,867 square miles. When it comes to waterfalls, lakes, lagoons, valleys, rainforests, we have it all packed here. The only thing we cannot give you is some snow.
And like its landscapes, Belize's population is a mosaic of variety. Besides, Belize is one of the only non-Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America.
Belize City was really founded in the 1600s. Well, the Europeans, who were the original pirates, brought across slaves from Africa through Jamaica to work in the mahogany camps.
The tropical forests of Belize have long been harvested for mahogany and chicle, a time when tales of monsters were very popular.
Oh, the myths and legends are numerous. We still talk about Tata Duende. A lot of people, some people use it to frighten their kids. They say, Tata Duende, I come for you. Because as a child growing up, I can remember hearing all these stories being told. And you actually are afraid.
Rosita Arvigo left her native Chicago to settle in the Cayo region and study medicine in the jungle with Mayan healers. She has since devoted her life to the protection of the forest. Her encounter with the Tata Duende was a supernatural event that changed her life.
I'm Rosita Arvigo. I'm a doctor of naturopathy. As an alternative physician in the 1970s and 80s, it was rather difficult to practice complementary, alternative, natural medicine in the United States. I spent 13 years as apprentice to Maya shaman Don Eligio Panti from San Antonio in Belize. The duendes, he explained, are the earth spirits. They're assistants to the 9 Maya spirits, and they come to announce the beginning of a dream vision and the presence of the Maya spirits. So I encountered them dozens of times before a dream would begin. So this one night, I was aware of a little body behind me. I looked down and I saw 2 little hands here and 2 little feet here. So I turned around and tried to look into this little creature's face, and it went right back at me and had this little round face that was all kind of hairy. The feet were on backward, and the hand had only fingers, no thumbs.
Grissy G and Dismas are on a mission. They have dedicated the last 10 years to reviving the legend of the monster that haunted their dreams as children.
We are both artists, animators, and authors. We were originally born in Belize, but we currently reside in
Los Angeles. We are documenting the myths that we remember as children, to preserve this kind of telling of the tales.
To document these oral traditions that we remember.
Even though we live in Los Angeles, we can't help, we think about Belize every day. So the book is kind of like our way of basically giving back to the kids to kind of revive this excitement and energy and love for these kind of things that we loved as kids, you know?
The duo created paintings and an animated film about the Tata Duende. They also wrote a book about the monster, The Legends of Belize.
Most Belizean, you ask them about Tata Duende, they'll have a story.
Right.
So it's like, it's part of us, it's ingrained. So the importance of it is connected to all that we feel that is Belizean.
The Tata Duende hides in the jungle, keeping discreet. But unlike other monster legends where descriptions vary wildly, here in Belize, everyone has a clear picture of the Tata Duende's appearance.
Most people say that Tata Duende is a little man that lives in the jungle.
They're 1 to 2 feet tall.
He usually has a beard and a hat.
And they have 4 fingers with no thumbs. So the children, whenever they go into the forest, they hide their thumbs because they believe the duende is looking to take somebody's thumb.
There is the idea that he is a spirit as well. So it's not necessarily a solid entity.
Usually his feet are on backward. So if you see a footprint with 3 toes walking, it's actually the duende going in the opposite direction because his feet are on backwards.
In Belize, the Tata Duende is widely feared. In the countryside, many even refuse to talk about it. An obstacle that Grissy G and Dismas had to overcome during their 10 years of research.
And while making the book, we interviewed a lot of our Belizean friends, and we'd go on road trips, and people we would see on the roadside and just ask them a question,
Right.
give us something.
One guy got mad at us because we asked about Tata Duende, and he really got mad at us and yelled at us because he said, because we were asking about Tata Duende, we brought that bad spirit to him, and when he went to the jungle, the Tata Duende scared his hunt, you know, and the minute he was aiming to get the deer, something happened, he said like a whistle, and the deer went. So he said it's Tata Duende and it's because of us.
He believes that the Tata Duende is they like to refer it to as a mala aire, like a bad air, and he said that it's everywhere.
Yeah, and once you say his name, you're attracting him.
But what do the words Tata Duende mean?
The Tata Duende, it's an interesting word. Tata is a Maya word that means a very revered, respected elder.
The duende itself, the word is derived from Spanish, and it's dueño, like a derivative from dueño, which is the owner, dueño del monte. He's the owner of the jungle.
Right. So it's the great revered master. How is it translated? And they are the lords, the dueños, the caretakers of the forest, the waterways, the rivers, the trees, and the plants.
For the historian Lita Krohn, the Tata Duende is more than a hideous gnome. It also has an educational role for young people.
You know, I've always been a teacher, either at the high school, at the junior college, and a couple stints at the university. The kids love these stories. They love these stories. Some of them teach you good manners. Some of them teach you traditions. Some of them teach you, you know, what to say, what not to say, how to behave. I always think of Hansel and Gretel, and they used to say, don't go in the forest. And these parents wanted to take care of their kids, so maybe they'd say, be careful, and they were right, because being in the forest, there's a lot of dangerous things there.
Parents, mothers, and caretakers of children often say, behave or the Tata Duende is coming for you. Finish your meal or I'll call the Tata Duende to come take you.
So a lot of these stories too, our grandma would tell us, you know, don't go play back there because the little duende will take you away if you don't behave yourself.
You know, sometimes in protecting things, you have to be scary. I think so. There's two sides to Tata Duende.
Belizeans are very scared of him, mostly. You don't want to get him angry because, you know, they won't be fun for you.
If he doesn't like you and he touches you in a negative way, you'll get a fever, you'll start to feel bad. Don't whistle, because that's what he does. You're not supposed to whistle.
They can tear your house up at nighttime. They put animal dung in the corn grinder. They urinate on the fire. They put your fire out. They break pots. And
he could maybe knock you out, take you to his cave.
Since he has power over the jungle, all of a sudden you might have a beehive following your ass, you know? It's just that you didn't know what Tata Duende would do. It was that mystery, you know, that like, oh my God, what could it do, you know?
Tata is a little mean monster, but he's being mean to the right people.
The Tata Duende calls the Cayo region home. It's located in the western part of the country, 1 hour from the capital of Belize City. San Ignacio, the district capital, is a quiet town of just 10,000 inhabitants, mostly farmers.
This is the market. This is where we get a lot of our healthy, fresh vegetables and produce that keeps us nice and young looking, you know what I mean?
Javier Molina works as a tour guide. He's particularly proud of his hometown.
What makes San Ignacio different from the other cities is the setting, the natural setting that it's in. This area is very mountainous, a lot of hills by the rivers, the two rivers that come and meet here in San Ignacio and create one of our bigger rivers, the Belize River, the lush jungle that's all around, the greenery. The spirit of Belize is very low-key, laid back, relaxed. You feel like time just is at a different pace here than other places. Very mixed culture, diverse culture. You'll find Hispanics here. You'll find Garifuna people here, as well as the Creoles. I can definitely still find Mayan roots all over Belize. Like all of these people come to this jewel that we have here, and they share. They become a part of us, and they create their own little culture, unique culture that is a combination of all these cultures that we know as Belize now. And I love this place. It's just so amazing here.
The Mayan presence in the region dates back several millennia. And unlike other similar sites in Latin America, the Mayan ruins of Belize are hidden in the jungle, far from the crowds of tourists.
Almost all of Belize was occupied by the Mayans. There were about 1 million Mayans living in this area known as Belize. And many of their temples still remain. These temples date back over 3,000 years.
The indigenous people, the first inhabitants of Belize were the Maya, as far as we know. The archaeologists will say Paleo-Indians. Okay, well, they were the grandfathers of the Maya then. The Maya people do believe in Tata Duende, and it comes from their religious beliefs, you know. He's gone through the ages, at least 2,500 years. So he's a pretty old dude. This is a very rootsy thing. The Catholic Church didn't get into the Tata Duende.
But why is there almost no written documentation of its existence?
Because the Spaniards came to this world in the 16th century, and before that, all evidence was burned by the Spanish friars, right? All their 100,000 books were burned by Bishop Landa, so there may have been records, but they were all destroyed. But as far as any written documentation or eyewitnesses, it doesn't seem to go back beyond the 16th century. The Spanish friars who originally came here and studied the culture, studied the history, and that myth came out in like the 16th century. It was the first recording of the Tata Duende. All we have are oral versions, oral transition from generation to generation.
It was thanks to a strong oral tradition that pre-Columbian culture survived in Belize. And this method of cultural transmission is cherished throughout the country.
The different traditions passed down from generation to generation has been oral, through stories. I remember, you know, my parents and grandparents in the little villages around the fire and telling us stories. Definitely you grew up on a lot of oral traditions, a lot of different stories and folklores, like the Tata Duende and all these different mythical creatures that exist in the forest and in the jungles. The coming together of telling these stories is not happening the way it used to happen, and I think it's very important for us to try our best to capture and maintain for our future generations these stories, because if we don't do it now, then they will be lost forever.
We'd be boring if we didn't have Tata Duende. Super boring we would be. I think if you ever get rid of Tata Duende, we're not going to be in good shape. We have to keep him right up front. Oral tradition enriches who we are, and that's part of our Belizean identity, knowing all of these personalities of the rainforest and of the sea and of the river and all these places, because culture is dynamic. So maybe first you had the oral tradition, you know, written, TV. So there are other ways you have to keep moving with the times.
Hence the relevance of the approach of Grissi and Dismas, who wish to restore the Tata Duende legend to its former eminence.
Do you think the Tata Duende or interpretation will affect our country?
I think it's going to bring an interest of another scope or another dimension, because, okay, people come here to see the beautiful Caribbean. You go to the rainforest, you go to the Maya sites, but this is going to give a deeper insight into Belizean culture.
Right.
Because we're not just sites, we're like a personality, and you know, it's who we are.
Right.
We're completely different from, say, someone living in Oklahoma.
Right, right. These are our monsters.
These are
right?
our monsters.
Right.
We've got them. We've got a lot of them.
How do you feel about people that approach it like it's just a myth or it's just superstition?
There's some people that badmouth all these things that isn't a straight Christian thing. We're bringing out something that we've grown up with, and you'll have the takers and you'll have the people that won't accept. But I think you have to put it out there. It's unique. It's very unique. We have this multitude of folklore characters. It enriches our culture. It enriches everything.
Grissi and Dismas continue their search for the mysterious Tata Duende. In a small village in the Cayo region, they meet Maria Garcia, a Mayan spiritual leader familiar with this jungle monster.
We still believe, you know, that everything is alive, everything have a spirit, and that there are special, entities or spirits that take care of this land, this forest that we call Tata Duende. We know that he is powerful, we know that he's secret, and that's why we do have a lot of reverence to him, If we don't have respect, then, he gets mad.
Of course, right.
It's not that he's bad, it's because he have a mission, he wants to let know his feelings.
For Maria Garcia, the Tata Duende is no mere legend. It's a flesh and blood monster.
My father used to tell us that. He says, it exists. And then when the religion came in, it's like kind of block it up, And then people say, those are stories, those are legends, that's not real. But he leaves signs that you can see that he's there. Believe me or not, recently, people from my village have been seeing it. Most of the, legends or the stories or the beliefs are spiritual. The only trace that you can see is when they play with your horse, when they trim the hair of your horse, then you see that it is physical, that he's there, but he is spirit.
It's during the night that the Tata Duende makes its appearance, which often includes braiding the manes of horses.
We are farmers, and the horses are the ones that help us in the field. Like 12 o'clock in the nighttime, you can hear the horse run. Run, run, run. And then my mom says, it's the duende riding. And after they finish riding, you can hear the horse blow their nose. And so, like early in the morning, you get up and you come watch on your horse, their hair is trimmed. But they say that they trim the hair because that's where they put their foot. You can come and see how he trims it.
Wow, so this would be like his little...
Yeah, his...
what do you call it? Stirrups? His stirrups?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he puts his foot like this, and they just ride.
Rosita Arvigo also lives in the Cayo region, and like Maria, she has encountered the Tata Duende.
We once did a driveway. The work was started when I wasn't home. My son was here, and he cut down 3 trees, and every machine that he used broke 3 times over 3 days. And when I came home, I said, well, of course that's what's happening, because you haven't given an offering or asked permission to the duendes of this forest. That's just one example. You could hear thousands of stories exactly like that. Many things happen, especially accidents, when you're clearing the forest. If you don't ask permission and leave a small offering to the lords of the forest, who are the duendes.
And that's why we always, do ceremonies for all the spiritual entities that we have. We just cannot go up there and take, because the banana tree already gave, I will say, oh, that's mine. No. Because if we do things the way it is, by offering, by being humble to them, then he helps us protect our fields. But when we don't do things the way it is, then he gets mad. We have a dry season, we have floodings, we have insects coming to eat our fields. If we receive, we have to offer.
Grissy G and Dismas also want to ensure that they're in the Tata Duende's good graces.
Like 9 different incenses.
Wow.
And that's to cleanse. When we offer and we cleanse, then we purify ourselves. This is the copal.
That's the copal.
Oh.
But it's like a wax?
It's a sap.
Is it from a tree called copal?
Yes, this is one of our most sacred trees. That's what we are going to be offering.
And this altar, is it specially designed for?
Yes, that is how our Mayan people do their altars. We cut it from the forest, from the sacred forest. We ask permission because we are going to be making a ceremony. And so we cut them and we, put the altar so that we can put all what we are going to be offering. And then we are offering a lot of incenses so that he can feel, like rejoiced. He is an artist. He loves music, so he likes to play. So we have to offer him, a guitar. And then cigar, he likes to smoke cigars.
I've heard that.
so it's tobacco.
Okay.
Tobacco.
And then sweets, because they like sweet things. And then we have a special porridge that we do for them, which is sacred corn, and you put it to boil without anything. Then you're going to grind it, and that's especially for them. And these are wine.
When you make your offerings, you have your, I would say, internal prayers that you make?
Yeah, we do have our prayers. Well, it's passed down from generation after generation. We have to smudge everything too so that they can know that it's for them.
He's possibly watching us now?
Yes, he is.
Grisiji and Dismas pursue their offering to woo the Tata Duende. But will the mythical jungle monster appear?
When we make ceremonies, you know, as soon as we start to put the altar and everything, you can see the difference. If it's hot sun, you can see that the clouds starts to get together. After it just rain, then the farmers can plant. This is from the sipche. This is a very sacred plant, and so whatever negative that we have, they get it.
So it'd be like a sponge for the negative.
You have to like observe your negativity. I would love, you know, the first one to come. Now we are going to leave this here, and in 3 days we are going to bury everything, because what we offer is for them, not for us.
Did you notice, Miss Garcia, how the breeze just started blowing and the
rain, and the rain too started to drizzle.
Is that?
That's good?
Yes, it's good. That means that the elements are happy.
The minute I started.
The minute it started, the wind just kind of like blew in right through.
The horse started walking around the tree.
Kind of give you a little weird feeling, and then
it just felt like there's a strong energy.
Very strange.
We have set borders. We're an independent nation. We have our flag. This is our political identity. But I think we also have a cultural identity. Culture in Belize, and culture in Belize is multicultural. We're having things come from Africa, things come from the Maya, things come from the mixture, the mestizo culture, you know? But the Maya have ingrained a lot of beliefs in our whole system. I don't think you're gonna find Tata Duende in a city. We have had a lot of rural areas for a very long time. I think he's more on the outskirts. Like most of our folklore, they're not urban dwellers, they're rural.
Today, 3/4 of Belizeans are Roman Catholic or Protestant, but that wasn't always the case.
Most of the Christian evangelists in Belize would say that we shouldn't believe in those things, and maybe they even think it's devil's work, or that the Duende is an evil spirit, because they want people to turn away from the old ways and turn their face to the new Christianity. And the belief in those earth spirits is part of the ancient Maya way and part of the ancient Maya religion. They were lesser gods, so to speak. And of course, the modern Christians would rather that the Maya people put all that aside and no longer believe in the tenets of the Maya religion. It's very sad. That's what's happening to the culture. It's gradually being eroded by the needs of Christians to capture souls.
But is there any evidence for the Tata Duende's existence?
You're kind of looking for a scientific explanation, but there isn't.
I think he's got a spiritual identity, and I think he's got a real identity.
I think your mind is very powerful. If you believe in something strong enough, then you can bring it out.
It is faith in the unseen, belief in legends, belief in myths. But I see the Tata Duende as much more than a myth because just too many people have had encounters.
I personally haven't met him, but I have seen him.
The stories in my family about the Duende were that my grandfather was taken when he was young. He was playing in the woods, and he was led by this little creature that just, kept calling to him. And different people you would talk to would say, yes, your grandfather was taken.
Oh, because people think you're foolish or silly to believe in something that can't be proven, and it can't be proven that there is such a thing as a Tata Duende. It's a belief system.
Because if people say they've seen him, all right, who am I to say no?
But your life follows your thought. You believe in Tata Duende, then you will see Tata Duende.
I guess you either believe or you don't. If you have had experiences with them, and as I have, it goes beyond legend. It's something that you yourself experienced, and it's much, much easier to believe it when you felt it. And of course, that one time that I did see the little duende.
I've never seen Tata Duende. I believe in him. I believe there's something, there must be something if he's lasted for so long.
You can't really prove the existence of Catholic saints, but lots of people believe in them.
Whether myth or monster, the Tata Duende must be reintegrated in the culture of Belize, says Grissy G's best friend.
But they've been working on this for a long time, and I think it's such a powerful thing to bring back folklore. A lot of young people today either have never heard of him or in a very vague way, and it's so important to bring that back. Not because you need to believe, but because it's dogma, it's story. It's all about who we are and where we come from and our ancestry, and those things should never be lost. That's a part of our identity. So I think there's a lot of positive things to Tata Duende. He is anti-destruction of our natural treasure. So, sometimes children learn through fear, or, don't do this because there's a consequence, and that's what Tata Duende is about. He's a protector, and everybody needs a protector.
I think he's our first environmentalist, and he promotes moderation. He doesn't mind if you go hunting or if you go picking things from the tree, but don't overdo it. Just take what you need and leave. You don't have to get into big business over the rainforest, and I think that's the way the rainforest has survived. I think we need a lot more Tata Duendes.
Us like indigenous people, we love the forest. The forest is our home. So if we don't care, and take care of it, then what will happen? Right. The future generations are there, and we have to leave something for them.
So it is important to preserve it. So if this story is to preserve the rainforest or the jungles, it's a good one to teach.
If more young people, get into preserving the culture, the environment, our natural resources, I think we are on the right path.
Armed with their book and excerpts from their animated film about the Tata Duende, the tandem tours schools, introducing children to this mythical monster.
So we are going to stir up some stories and excitement from the kids tonight with Tata Duende. Hi guys! now we're here today to share with you what we do. We are artists and animators, and we have documented our myths from Belize because we think they are part of our culture that makes this country so unique. I will be talking about Tata Duende.
So, no familiar with the Tata Duende? Good stories or scary stories?
Scary.
Okay, good.
Okay, cool.
Like we said, some people afraid of it, some people aren't. Some people believe in it, and some people think it's a lone cartoon. Some people believe that Tata Duende is a spirit.
Some people believe they are real, but they know how to hide very well, right? So that only when they choose to appear to you, right?
But the truth is that there is something, because the story comes from somewhere. And the story comes from our ancient ancestors. Hit the lights.
Start it off, all right? Let's go.
Start with the presentation. This is a close-up of what we believe the Tata Duende may look like. We interview people.
We talk to people in Corozal, in Belize City, all over, and it's just interesting how even though they're far away, the characteristics of Tata Duende, they're like the same thing, and these beings are basically the guardians of nature, you know?
We do have an animated short to show you about the Tata Duende.
You guys ready? All right.
All right.
Yeah, man. No exam.
They are monsters of fairy tales and scary stories, but in Belize there are legends and folklore of terrifying creatures. Creatures so terrifying that accounts of them are passed down from the ancients, and these legends continue to be told. Tata Duende is a powerful spirit that protects the animals and jungles of Belize. Be extremely careful to not anger Tata Duende, for his wrath can be deadly.
So, thank you guys. So when you go home, you talk to your grandparents or your uncle and just ask them, bring this culture back. We all have the power to do it.
I had a very interesting presentation on Belizean folklore. My parents would also tell me stories as I went growing up. Apart from that, you know, it's put aside. So it's something that needs to be recovered and moved on from generation to generation. And some people might say, oh, they're just stories. But it's a part of the culture when you talk about here in Belize. Children growing up need to know about these things, and they need to pass it on to their children. It's part of their history.
The next stop on their tour, a return to the capital for an appearance on the popular talk show, Belize Watch. The host is also the owner of the premises, Rene Villanueva.
We started this organization 22 years ago in the ground flat of our home on Freetown Road with a transmitter between the toilet and the bathtub because that was the closest spot to the roof.
Here, Mr. Rene, the books are out. They're now on Amazon, and we hope you enjoy them.
Put together, we're going to talk about this evening.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Definitely want to talk about this evening. This is great stuff that is being done to preserve these parts of our history that are so important, so vital for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grissy G and Dismas are preparing to make their television debut in Belize.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Belize Watch. It's a pleasure, honor, and a privilege to be with you on a lovely Tuesday evening. And what a show we have for tonight. We have the great Dismas. Welcome, Grissy G.
Yes,
welcome.
Thank you.
And it's good to see you guys again.
Glad to be here.
And joining us this evening are some young folks and some average young folks, members of the Imperial Band. So we're going to make a mixture of music and folklore this evening. They have put together a book titled Legends of Belize. a series about mythical creatures that dwell in the jungles and waters of Belize.
It took us 10 years to write the book.
10 years to put this together.
Right, with all the artwork. And we also put a lot of research into the different characters because we really wanted to tie it with the culture and also how we reflect in the world.
That the older folks, also older folks will know about Tata Duende. The younger folks are not too familiar with it. Have you all found that out as well?
Yes, that's why we started pursuing the book and continuing the series and took it so seriously because we saw that a lot of people, because of technology, they weren't talking to the family anymore and grandparents, and these stories weren't being heard.
I agree that because as a child I can remember the Tata Duende stories indeed.
There's the good part of him and then the bad part of him, right? And mostly that basically how you behave and how he reacts to you. So if you're a bad person, they hurt the jungle, they pollute.
You must behave yourself.
You must behave.
Right.
And also, the thing we love about it is these stories that what make us as one culture.
Of course.
You know?
And I want to thank you all and congratulate you on what you're doing, keeping our folklore alive, keeping these duendes alive. You guys will be playing some music for us this evening. All right, well, if we're ready, we beat out some music, man.
Let's hope that Tata Duende is listening and, you know, might show up.
This Tata Duende that wants to protect the forests may do useful work for Belize. The ecotourism sector is booming in the Cayo region, and the development of this promising industry is now a priority for this small Central American nation. Tourism already accounts for 12% of the local economy.
We subscribe to ecotourism, leaving things as natural as we can. Per capita, we'd have more marine reserves, more forest reserve, more river reserve, more lagoon reserve than any country around us. If you want natural things as natural as they can be, this is Belize.
Does the Tata Duende have a place in contemporary Belize? Absolutely, says historian Lita Krohn.
If you ever get rid of Tata Duende, we're not going to be in good shape. We have to keep him right up front. He's a rebel. He's like saying, listen, if you can't take care of it, I've got to take care of it. And if I have to use scary tactics, I'm going to use scary tactics. That's the way the rainforest has survived.
You know, I guess I was taught that to fear the Duende was something that's scary, something you didn't want to run into. But eventually, as you get a little bit older, you realize that he's a good guy. He's just doing his job, which is protecting this beautiful jewel that we have, protecting nature and a part of Mother Nature.
To me, Tata Duende is just a folklore that was used to entertain. I haven't seen Tata Duende. Some people say they have seen him.
In America, there are elves and fairies. Very strong tradition of elves and fairies. The Tata Duende is like an elf or a fairy creature.
I've never had the privilege of seeing him. I don't know if I really, want to see him or not. I'm not too sure about that.
Sometimes they would be reluctant to admit that they have seen them or that they believe in them because they don't want to be ridiculed or laughed at. Me, I don't care. Laugh. I believe in them.
People are cutting too much forest. The forest is their home, so we just cannot cut it for them. It's like somebody comes and put fire on my house, then I don't have no home. And that's the same thing with them.
I don't think it does any harm to believe, nor does it do any harm not to believe, unless you're going to cut down a tree.
As for Grissi and Dismas, they intend to continue their quest to restore the Tata Duende's legacy in Belize.
It's an honor, like we're guardians of these myths, and now we have to make sure we can share them.
When we started our series, there was a map of the amount of virgin forest in Belize, and it was a lot. And then, but quick, within 3 years of that, we started to look at these news things, news articles and pictures that the forest is depleting like fast, acres and acres. So we really believe like a lot of these stories need to kind of come back and to remind people that this is important. This is life. This is what brings people
to our country. So don't destroy, you know, you gotta take care of it because
the Tata Duende is everywhere.